Good afternoon. 2 weeks ago, I made a video introducing how we're going to approach the teaching of catechism, preparation for First Communion and Confirmation, especially during this time of COVID, and basically was emphasizing that you as parents are the primary teachers of your children, and so it's really going to have to be for the catechism. It's going to have to be a matter of homeschooling, with us providing you guidance, assistance, and resources. And I guess all parents just about had some sort of experience, not really in homeschooling, but having kids at home for school at the end of last school year. But of all the parts of teaching that really you as parents are most equipped to do at home is precisely handing on the faith to your children. And it's something that really very much needs to go on at home. And I promised that I would be, an assistance that I would be providing, be a series of videos, a bit of catechesis, actually for you as parents, a series of catechesis based on the Holy Rosary. But I'm going to start today with some preliminaries, and there will be a few preliminary videos before we actually get to the Rosary. And again, all this, the idea of what you need to be able to teach your children, what you need to know, what you need to teach, right? And so I'm going to want to show you some of the resources you'll have. When it's a matter of teaching your children home, we can provide a curriculum. We will provide a curriculum for you. We will provide books, and I'll come to that in a minute. But I first want to sort of give an overview of the types of content and their relationship, what I mean. But I'm going to give it two images. One is of seeds planted in soil, okay? So it doesn't do good to just give your children a bunch of seeds. Here you go, here's some seeds. No, you have to have the soil there too. You have to provide both the soil and the seeds. Or again, the teaching, there has to be both the flesh and the bones in the teaching, okay? And that's one of the problems, is you might say that the sort of teaching that just goes questions and answers, just memorizing answers to get back at a test, you're just doing seeds, you're just doing bones. And you don't get a living plant that way, you don't get a living body that way, okay? So the real three types of things, there's just sorts of things you need to pass on to your children, are the stories, okay? Stories, that's really where you have the soil, that's where you have the flesh, okay? The stories of the Bible, all right? I have here, this is a very excellent Catholic Bible for children, okay? The stories of the Bible. But also as Catholics, stories of the lives of the saints. There are many resources, many children's lives of the saints. I believe we have some available in our gift shop, indeed, that are available. All that which begins to fill the child's imagination with a background knowledge, concrete background knowledge that everything finally refers to when we get to the teaching of the doctrine. Okay, so you have the story, the soil, the doctrines as the seeds that need to be planted in that soil because they can really produce a living plant, or the stories are the flesh, and the doctrine, the bones. In fact, it's interesting that we speak of different articles of the creed. The creed, that summary statement of what we believe. Well, that word article comes from the Latin word precisely meaning joints, little articulations of the bones, right? So the creed, really, that's the bones of our faith. But we need also the flesh. But there's one other thing in there that I need to mention that really needs to be handed on, and very important, and very much need to do with your own, is teaching your children the basic prayers. And that, the basic prayers in many ways, that might actually go more on the side of the soil and on the side of the flesh. So the stories are filling the mind and the imagination. The prayer is now just the fundamental practice of faith in which everything else is built. But why not just teach them how to pray, but teaching them prayers? Well, when you teach your children to speak, and there's a part they learn naturally just hearing you speak, but you also teach them. You teach them words, you teach them to say things, right? You teach them expressions. They learn by repetition. They learn the language from you. And so the prayers that Jesus gives us, like the Our Father, that derive directly from Scripture and partly from the church, like the Hail Mary, and other prayers that just come from the tradition of the church, is teaching us the basic language of prayer. Once we learn that basic language of prayer, then we have a basis for being to express ourselves to God in a right way. Just as once a child learns how to speak from their parents, learns how to speak in school, the more they grow, the more they mature, the more they're able to speak on their own. And so really, for prayer, we first need to learn the language of prayer, and that's what those set prayers, which are so deep and rich in their content and meaning, do for us. And once they get to the prayers of the Rosary, I'll have a lot more to say on that subject. So that's a basic overview. As I said, you really need to fill your children's memories and imagination with the stories. You need to teach them prayers, and you need to teach them the doctrines. Okay, that would be a summary. Now, here in front of me, I have all sorts of books. They're the books that we've used in our catechism class. And so they're available in English and Spanish. All right, the Faith and Life series here. And there is really an excellent and rich catechetical text. And I find, here, I've actually almost, when I was in Ontario, I taught almost this entire level 1 to the first grade at St. Peter's School in Ontario. That's the name of their school there. It's really a marvelous text. And so a simple thing, these actually combine all these elements, have story, prayers, and doctrine, okay, on level 1, on a first grade level. Okay, so very easy to just each week make sure you go through one chapter with your child. Talk about it. Look at what things you need to actually memorize, for example, and what chapters maybe you need to really spend more time with, so forth, and we'll help you with those sorts of things. But that's really a very easy program to follow. Just one chapter after another, reading with your children, talking to them about what you're reading. Okay, and so that's first overview. Then there's another overview I'll give you here, which I'll then maybe talk about a little bit more in my next video, and that is the Hall of Catholic Faith and Practice. It's contained under 4 headings. It's the way the Catechism of the Catholic Church is structured. It's the way the Roman Catechism from the 16th century was structured. The Creed, the 7 Sacraments, the 10 Commandments, and the Our Father. And then under the Our Father you can have the other basic prayers as well. So a Catholic knows the Creed by heart, knows the 7 sacraments by heart, knows the 10 Commandments by heart, knows the Our Father by heart. There you got the basic. Everything else is development, everything else is explanation. Okay? Then there's one other thing, though, that I insist on, I've been insisting on. There really is the hidden thread that unites everything, the creed, the sacraments, the commandments, the prayers, and that is the doctrine of grace. Grace, which is this great gift of Jesus Christ, which it gives us to truly share in the life of nature of God, which transforms and elevates our human nature. It's not just about the forgiveness of sins. That's the beginning. It's about coming to truly share in God's own life. And that's, we can say, is promised in the Creed, communicated to us through the sacraments, and lived in the way of the commandments and of prayer.